Now, Mr. Montana, you've spoken about the State Capture Commission, how you feel that you won't be given a fair trial and the direction that is taken. Do you then think, and as a citizen who's bound by the Constitution and who must be protected by this Constitution, do you have any faith in the judiciary of this country?
Well, look, I think we have been told that we've got one of the best constitutions in the world. And I think that, when we look at what is happening in the country, one must have doubts. I think that, look, I'll share 3 specific examples that is the basis of my comment. You know, when the story of toll trains came, Popo Molefe and Werksmans went to court to try and set this contract aside. They said a lot of wrong things, actually falsehoods. The trains are tall, there was corruption, there was fronting, a whole range of things. They even said that Swefambo Rail Leasing was the only company that was given the opportunity to put a bid for an outright purchase beyond leasing. You know, I read the documents. Of course, Popo attacked me in those in his affidavit, all sorts of things. That all these things happened because of Lucky Montana. I responded to all of that, but I applied to the court, to the High Court in Johannesburg, and said, look, I'm applying as a friend of the court. I want to assist the court because I've read the papers by PRASA, I've read the papers by Swefambo. They both do not understand what was happening at PRASA. When we did this contract, Popo Molefe was not there. He doesn't have direct personal knowledge on the things that he's talking about. There's a lot of speculations, but there's a lot of lies. So I then wanted to give the courts everything, so that, because I knew what happened there, I put together an affidavit and I applied. The court refused me, rejected my application. And if you look at the reasons, I deal with them in my testimony, in my statement to the Zondo Commission. The reasons for rejecting that are so spurious. When you fast forward, you look at other cases, the Siangena matter, an NGO based in Cape Town led by Zaki Ahmad, is called Unite Behind. It doesn't even have direct interest in the matter. It's admitted as a friend of the court in another matter. So I asked myself, what is the standard in all of those things? People who do not have direct interest, who do not even have direct evidence. I was the CEO of PRASA. I want to provide information that will be material. I want to assist. I'm not saying the court must support this or do not support that. I want to assist the court because I'm saying all these decisions were made by PRASA and I was the CEO. And the decision, they even told lies that no, this contract was approved by Lucky Montana, when it was in fact approved by the board. The court rejected me. Unite Behind, which I'm saying doesn't have any direct information other than being fed by Werksmans and Paul O'Sullivan, is admitted to the court. So why would I have confidence? Because these things do not tally. Why would I be denied? Is it in the interest of justice? I think on the Siangena matter, a full bench even said, if people like Lucky and them are not invited to come as witnesses and provide the information, it will not be in the interest of justice to do so. So yes, I think on the one hand, you see this good thing. Let me tell you, when I wrote a letter to the Judicial Service Commission, I received a feedback, and I was told that the Chief Justice, Muhwe, had rejected my application. And I looked at it and I was so shocked. Who by law, who looks at the conduct of the judges? It's the Judicial Service Commission. And you could see that they use technicalities because they don't want to confront the issue. Then let's talk about the Supreme Court of Appeal on the Sufambo matter. I deal with the judgment in my testimony. It's a shocking judgment. It actually creates its own story. In the High Court, Judge Francis J. didn't even want to deal with the issue of the suitability of the trains because he said, this issue is not on my agenda. I'm a review court. I'm not dealing with whether the product was right or wrong. But when you go to the Supreme Court of Appeal, the court makes statements that are so factually incorrect. And you ask yourself where they got that information from. Even some of the information was not even placed by either of the parties, by the applicant and the respondent. And the first sentence, I'm not party to that matter. The first sentence is attacking me. That Lucky Montana and some of his officials. And you know who are some of these officials? When you check the details, you'll find that it's people like Matango and them, people who actually adjudicated the tender of Sefambo. And when they go before Justice Zondo, they don't tell the truth that no. They say, no, there's corruption. Yet they are the people who adjudicated this tender. So yes, I think that all of us, we want an independent judiciary that is fair, that look at these things dispassionately, that bases it on the thing. But I've seen things that are disturbing, especially on the PRASA matters. I've seen judgments that are crazy. I mean, let me give another example. Daniel Mtimkulu, he's taken to court that he doesn't have qualifications. We know that Daniel Mtimkulu didn't tell the truth about his qualifications. But when you read the judgment, you can see that it's not about the issue. They're dealing with something different. Actually, they're conflating issues there. There's an issue about Daniel Mtimkulu being employed, and when you can see that the issue of his qualification doesn't come in there. Actually, the issue of him being a doctor, it only came later, after he has been promoted, he has been appointed. Daniel Mtimkulu worked for PRASA, was employed 8 years before I became CEO, I came into this environment. But when you read the judgment, and when you read in the media, they say Daniel Mtimkulu, Lucky Montana appointed his fake engineer, Daniel Mtimkulu. I found him there. They won't tell you that. They said Daniel Mtimkulu was a chief engineer at PRASA. PRASA never had such a position. It was created by the media. It's fine when it's said by the media. But when you find this narrative in our court papers, in judgments, you've got to ask questions. You know, I put a review application on the report of the public protector, Thuli Madonsela. She said a lot of wrong things there, which are not backed up by evidence. She ran away before we could even complete this fight. And you know, today, if I proceed with that matter, I'm not fighting with Thuli Madonsela, I'm fighting with Advocate Mkhwebane. And I'm not prepared to do that. When we went to Justice Zondo, when you listen to Popo Molefe, you listen to Matangoye, when you look to Advocate Vasoni, the evidence leader, they tell Deputy Chief Justice about the report of the public protector. It said 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. But they don't tell him that, no. Advocate Madonsela only did 50% of the report. Advocate Mkhwebane did another 50%, which comes, and these reports, they contradict each other big time. But the courts are only prepared to deal with derailed, as if it's the only report. Advocate Mkhwebane writes a report. What happens? Werksmans and them, they get Zaki Ahmad and Unite Behind to fight and say she didn't investigate properly. But they realized they didn't have a basis, they've retreated. So there are two reports. I'm placing the second report before Deputy Chief Justice Zondo. that when we talk about public protector report, don't talk about report of Thuli Madonsela only, which I challenge in court. There's also a report. I'm now talking to the office of the public protector. I'm happy with what Advocate Mkhwebane has done. Advocate Thuli Madonsela, I don't think she has integrity. I don't respect her. In fact, my own information indicates that she didn't even write a report. I've been told by lawyers that no, they've been working on the working papers. They know who drafted those reports. You can see that it was earmarked, targeted, so that it can discredit some of us. But it worries me when I see, for example, the commission, I see the courts wanting to select one report of Advocate Madonsela because they like her. Then there's a report of Advocate. It says, that report, it deals with 50%. It rejects and say, no, but all these things are not substantiated. Because you know what Thuli Madonsela did? She produced a full report. We respond to these reports. Okay? In one of the conclusions in my letters, I said to her, not because I reject everything that she has said, but I said, where the public protector makes findings and recommendations that will improve on our own performance, on strengthening controls or governance, we welcome that. When I rejected her report, Thuli Madonsela says, but Lucky accepted my report. I never accepted the report. It's a conclusion that because I respect the role of the office, the role that the Office of the Public Protector plays. I went on to reject and point out the factual inaccuracies in the report. I've even pointed out the legal flaws. You know, Thuli Madonsela, she bases her report on a number of things. Section 38 of the PFMA. The PFMA states that this rule or this section does not apply to Schedule 3B entities. PRASA is a Schedule 3B. Yet, on law, here's a person that we say she's a professor or she's an advocate. But she doesn't know that PRASA is a Schedule 3B. What she's applying on PRASA, the section of the law doesn't apply to PRASA. So I made two applications. The first one was to deal with the law. That she's made serious errors of law. And we point that out. Then the second part, I go to deal with the factual inaccuracies. We hear things such as in a report that PRASA appointed Siangena for 20 to 10 projects, but these projects were only done after 2010, which is true. Thuli Madonsela had before her completion certificates that shows that PRASA completed all its work before June. The last project we did was on the 8th of June 2010, 3 days before the Soccer World Cup. So she lies to the public. The second lie on that, she says, this project cost 1.9 billion rands. She writes that in a report, Derailed. It's not true. The 2010 projects that we did with Siangena was not 1.9 billion rands. It was only 61.8 million rands. Now, someone who's got the facts before her, how can she jump from 61.8 million rands to 1.9 billion rands? That is why when I was interviewed by the SABC, they asked you, what do you say about the findings of Advocate Madonsela, the public protector? I said, well, I didn't hear anything. I just heard drama. Someone was acting drama because she was saving, she knew who she was saving. And that is why she had to dramatize, take 61 billion, it becomes 1.9 billion. She forget, we went with Minister Sibundebele at that time. We launched all our 2010 projects. We were with the Secretary General of FIFA at that time. We went to launch this thing so that the stations and the facilities are ready for 2010. So these things were reported in the media. There were completion certificates. Advocate Madonsela couldn't see any of that. Yet we presented these facts to her. So I'm saying that we want South Africa to have a judiciary that is independent, that doesn't take political positions, that looks at the facts, that doesn't decide who are you, which grouping do you belong to. But I'll be honest with you. I've seen disturbing things in my short life. Anything that has gone, that dealt with PRASA and the courts, Werksmans will win it, based on, not on evidence, but based on speculation. And the judges use very strong words. And in all this judgment, the first paragraph attacks Lucky Montana. And when I asked and I applied, can I come into this thing? Recently, the court made a judgment on Siangena. The full bench invited me and others to make submissions. The judges were changed, new judges were brought in. You know what they said? They couldn't accept my evidence. Because if they accept my evidence, the facts that I put in there, there's no way the court can come into that. I know that Siangena is appealing that matter. I'm considering whether I should, but I know that every time I try to join, either as a witness, as an intervening witness, or as a friend of the court, the judges seem to read newspapers, what Peter Louis Mayberg and others had written about me, more than the case that I'm putting forward. So it's a difficult question. Someone like me, we should be building confidence in our judiciary. But go and look, I've written, you'll see it in my attachment to my statement in Zondo. I look at what Chief Justice Muhweng says. I had the right to appeal, and I decided after consulting somebody, say, no, it's quite clear that irrespective of what you're going to say, you're not going to win this issue. The Chief Justice tells me to say, take it to another forum. I'm dealing with the conduct, the unprofessional conduct of the Deputy Chief Justice. I can't take it to another forum. Yes, I've got other remedies, other avenues that I can look at. But specifically, I'm applying, I'm raising with the Judicial Service Commission. And the Judicial Conduct Committee tells me, take it somewhere else. So as I sit here, for example, I'm talking to the Office of the Public Protector. Do I want to pursue my review application against the findings of Advocate Madonsela? What purpose will it serve? I don't think that, and I think it's something that and again, we need to be unfair. I mean, I don't want to be unfair and brush the judiciary with one brush, because we've seen some great judgments. I mean, when we look at the judgment, for example, when Leslie Sidibe, he took one of the cases on behalf of one of the employees against the Joe Tlole's report. When you look at that judgment, it's an amazing judgment. You can see that it's based on the law. I've read other judgments which inspires you. But I've seen judgments like the SCA judgment on Swifambo. It's a shocking judgment. And you ask yourself, and the problem is that there's not one judge. It was 5 judges. So I asked the counsel who was representing Swifambo, I said, what happened there? And when he gave me his explanation, I realized that we have a problem. I think that the judiciary should look at itself. I'm not a judge. I'm not a lawyer. But I know from as a lay person that I see wrong things happening. And someone, when I criticize, by the way, Deputy Chief Justice, and I criticize the decision of the Judicial Conduct Committee, somebody said to me, like, you need to be careful because judges hunt as a pack. I was so angry. It's those type of things that I will never accept. They can hunt as a pack. We can also hunt as a pack. This country is not only made of the justice system. There are other avenues. We can also hunt as a pack. So when somebody says keep quiet because they hunt as a pack, I say bullshit. I'll never accept that. Okay? So for me, there are things that I'm very clear on. I can't keep quiet when I see a judgment that is not based on law. You can see a judgment that, how can a judgment be exactly the same as the heads of that were submitted by Vexmans? Actually, that judgment, you can see that clearly this judgment was written by Vexmans. It was not written by the judges themselves. Of course, they challenge me, give us the evidence. But I see exactly what Vexman says in his head. On the Mtimkulu matter, on the Siangena matter, on Sifambo matter.
Well, it is correct, Mr. Montana, that one desires for the judiciary that is independent, that is fair, that is continuously, pursuing fairness, accountability, and justice for this country. Unfortunately, there are, many people not happy with the court outcomes that are being, handed down. But I hope that we'll get to a place where, of course, our courts are independent as well as our judges. But I want us to move on to speak about, the breakdown.
Look, I'm saying that there are good judges. I've seen good judges. I've seen good judgment, and I respect the judges. But I've seen disturbing things. And one of the things that I won't mention today, I'm dealing with a very uncomfortable issue in respect of the conduct of Francis J. in the Sufambo matter. It tells me anyone can look at can say these are sour grapes, but when you look at the conduct of the judge, you can see that it's not proper. It's improper conduct and everything. But I thought that in fact is one of the issues that I would take up with the Judicial Service Commission and its conduct committee. But after I received the response from Chief Justice, at this point in time, and I'm not sure if I'm keen to pursue those things. But let them continue hunting as a pack. I think that we're going to have a problem in this country. Hunt as a pack, you'll see that you're going to destroy institutions. So we want justice like the one, when I read the judgment, but I think it's the one on the Jodholo report. Wow, what a judgment. In fact, it's a judgment that sets out the principles based on the law. So if I'm found guilty or wanting with that kind of judgment, thorough, rigorous, okay, that looks at the facts, that balances the evidence. But I see a judgment of the Supreme Court of Appeal that does everything. You could see that the 5 judges are making, they can see that there's no evidence. But they try to manipulate this so that hearsay can be admissible, so that they can make the kind of judgment. Go and read the judgment. It's such a shocking judgment. To make matters worse, factually, they even say in one of the judgments that these trains have never moved. They were not suitable, the locomotives. So these judges make a judgment. They don't even know factually that these trains have done 76,000 kilometers. They say they're not suitable. They've never even moved. Since they arrived in the country, they've been parked. So I thought on the Sufambo matter, Francis J. was wrong. But the Supreme Court of Appeal, they've even raised the standard. They've actually created their own law. So you're asking a general question about the judiciary. And I don't want to generalize. But in areas where I'm involved, I've seen things that worry me. And I think that I'm saying it today openly, and I know the judges will hunt as a pack. Let them continue to. For me, these are things that I will never accept. They can hunt as a pack. I'll also have my own pack. You remember that politics change. Eh? Today you are hunted, you are the hunter. Tomorrow you'll be the hunted. So today, somebody told me, say, like you went, within my family, say, where do you think this thing will end? This was in 2015. And I said to them, Uncle, it's going to be a cycle of 10 years. It's going to be very difficult for some of us for the next decade. And today I was not wrong. 10 years later, things are moving the same way. And then when you appeal, the court says you want to take it to the Constitutional Court. You are told that there's no prospects of success. The next court will not take a different thing. The Constitutional Court doesn't want to. And I get shocked. The Constitutional Court cannot look at the Sufambo judgment, which is factually incorrect. Okay? There are fundamental principles of law. At what point do you accept hearsay? At what point do you reject it? But you see the High Court and you see the Supreme Court of Appeal manipulating these provisions about the admissibility of hearsay. To make matters worse, the PRASA goes to court. One of the fundamental cornerstone of their review application is the fact that the trains are too tall. This judge realized that there's no basis for what PRASA is saying. He decided in the middle of the game to change the rules. No, I'm not looking at this. I'm only a review court. I'm not looking at it. But at the heart of this application is that we've had a court, we've had trains that are not suitable. We've had things that are so someone will say, but Lucky is that thing. But take the review. If anyone had the time, particularly I hope guys, particularly with legal training more than me, they take the papers, they'll be shocked. They'll be shocked that what Werksman said stood. So I'm not surprised why Deputy Chief Justice and his legal team will try as much as possible to protect Werksman's. Because what they write, it goes into the judgment. You know, no one, including Werksman's own people, believe that they'll win the Siangena issue. And when you read the judgment, you could see that the facts and the truth were not guiding this court. They were trying to make some kind of a balancing act. When a judge decides that it is his duty to fight corruption up front, so before he sees the facts, then you know we've got a problem. Because then he's going to follow the narrative that has been said by Praveen. There are good people, there are bad people. And they belong to they're part of the good people. All of us are part of the bad people that we have. So there is a problem. And I think that if I do not tell the truth, I want to base my thing and intimidated by things like judges hunt as a pack, I'll be failing this country. I'll be failing our people. They must continue hunting as a pack. But we'll see, we'll destroy this country. That's the point I'm making.
Thank you very much, Mr. Montana. That was quite a response. Now, I want us to move to the issue of Mr. Popo Molefe. There is a clear breakdown of a relationship here. I don't know what went wrong, what happened, but his name keeps popping up and you refer to him as a pawn who's used by a few people. And you've made allegations with, money laundering, corruption and money laundering. You've also stated the fact that he paid directors unlawfully and whatnot. Can you just take us through these allegations that you continuously make with regards to Mr. Popo Molefe?
Well, let me start from the beginning. You know, Popo Molefe, I came to know about Popo Molefe, I think it was around 1985, 1986. I was a young activist, a member of the Mamelodi Youth Organization, a member of COSAS. The Delmas treason trial, where he was, I think it was Terra Lekota, Popo Molefe, it was the late Mos Chikane from Mamelodi. So we as the young activists, you know, it was a Delmas because the case started at Delmas, but then it went to the Palace of Justice. You know, we revered these guys, we loved them. We're young people. We used to go to court in Pretoria. And the police used to block us so that we don't go into court. They'll say, no, only families are allowed. But there will be times when we'll be allowed to go into court and spend 1 minute inside the court just to touch these leaders. So Popo, to me, was one of these great leaders. Mos Chikane came from Mamelodi. You remember this trial came after the Val uprisings, which spread throughout the country, 1984, 85. Then there was a partial state of emergency. So we as the young people, I used to move, when the court was proceeding, I used to run away from school just to be able to go to court and have a glimpse, to see Terra Lekota, even on the day when they were sentenced. I was at the court. I was outside. And we were told, in fact, let me say, before they were sentenced, there was also a solidarity meeting in 1988, I think. This solidarity meeting was at the Central Methodist Church in Johannesburg. I was part of that meeting. I was sitting next to Mzwakhe Mbuli. The meeting was addressed by two people, the Reverend Frank Chikane, and it was also addressed by Dr. Alan Busak. We're paying, at that time it was before they were sentenced to prison. It was a solidarity meeting. So that meeting ended up being disrupted by the police. I always joke to Mzwakhe that, you know how tall Mzwakhe is. And I always say to him, I say, Mzwakhe, he was on a banning order at that time. I said, Mzwakhe, I couldn't believe that you are the tallest man, but you were the first person to escape when the police broke the meeting. And I don't know how you went out. He says, because if they arrested me with a banning order, I was going to go straight to that thing. The police shamboked us, they disrupted the meeting. And the following week, then the judgment took place. I was there in Pretoria. Is it what called the Palace of Justice? I remember Justice Van der Kost. I remember the remarks, how he sentenced Terra Lekota to 12 years. I think Popo Molefe got 10 years and Mos Chikane got 10 years. Malindi and other people that were there. They were sent to prison. Then there was an appeal process. They won the appeal process. In 1989, they were released. They never served those and they were released. I was amongst the young people that were at the Jan Smuts, at that time, Jan Smuts Airport, who welcomed them, who were carrying them high. Popo Molefe was one of those. So, Popo Molefe, when I was told he was the chairman of PRASA, I've heard other bad things about him. But I was saying, I'm going to work with this giant of our liberation struggle. I called him to congratulate him and said, I'm happy to work with you because I used to come to your trial. It used to be one of the trials that shaped me during the late 1980s. From attending courts, sitting outside, carrying placards, singing, to the solidarity meeting, to the 1 minute thing that you can go in and out just to see them. So when I talk about Popo Molefe, he didn't know me personally, but I knew him because he was a leader of the UDF. He was the general secretary, and the Delmas treason trial was a major highlight of my own political career. The Central Methodist Church solidarity meeting. When we welcomed them, they were still wearing their khaki prison clothes. We're carrying them at the airport. You must go and look at some of those things. They've won their appeal. I think, I'm not sure if it was George Bezos, the late George Bezos, who was representing them in that appeal thing. They won. We carried them at the Jansma, not OR International Airport. So when Popo came to PRASA, was appointed as thing, there were two things at play. He was appointed, Dipuo Peters and Pravin Gordhan wanted him to be the chairman of PRASA, because we have defied their order to cancel the 53 billion rand program, because they wanted their own people. So when he came into PRASA, I knew that he came with this agenda, because he was sent by these people. But on the other hand, I was excited that someone who I knew as a young person, I've respected, I've looked up to, was going to be my chairman. So I sent him a message, congratulations, when can I come and see you? I went to see him at the Houghton Golf Club. He says, I'll be playing golf. I went there, introduced myself. I had 3 documents, 3 strategy documents that I gave to him. I said, well, it is before the induction, but in the meantime, you could as chairman read about PRASA so that you know what we do before we formally meet. I met him at the Houghton thing. I congratulated him again. I told him the inspiring story of the Delmas treason trial. But Popo was appointed by Dipuo Peters at the instigation of Pravin Gordhan, so that they can deal with us because we refused to cancel the contract. And I'd made up my mind at that time that I was going to leave PRASA. But the first few months were very good with Popo. After I was appointed, there was the biggest railway exhibition and conference in the world. It takes place every 2 years in Berlin. I said, Chairman, let's go together. I went with him. We're in Berlin together. He was only 1 month in PRASA, because I then kept on introducing to people, because I knew the railway industry internationally. I knew people in that industry. I said, guys, here's please meet my new chairman. Okay? That's what I did in 2014. In February 2015, there was another trip. I had to go to place our insurance with Lloyd's of London. As a chairman, it's very important, because the board plays an important role in our risk management strategy plans and insetting leadership. It's very important to go. He went with me. We did other things as some of our officials were now negotiating the details after the many presentations I've made. We went to even show Popo. He will not admit this, but I said, there's a shop that sells Crockett and Jones in London. Let me take you to that shop. We bought shoes there. I even bought him some pairs of shoes. And I joked, Chairman, I'm not bribing you. You are the same. You are in the age group of my dad. If I was here, my dad was still alive, I would buy him shoes. And I worked very closely with him. And of course, I told him that I'm gonna step down. And he says, no, I want you to stay for another 3 years. Popo said that to me. But I knew that he didn't mean it. At that time, you see, when Popo was appointed, there was a duality in his appointment. He was appointed by his political bosses, particularly Pravin Gordhan. So if you understand Pravin Gordhan, you understand Popo's appointment and why Werksmans was appointed at PRASA. And why today, and Ukhozi and everything, and why the same companies are involved at Transnet when PRASA left, because that is Pravin Gordhan in operation. So I told him I'll step down. So Popo had this mandate. But Popo was also in financial distress, in trouble. He wanted he wanted money for himself. I won't tell you what I'm saying in my affidavit. When I was with him in Germany, he wanted money. He told me his company, Lereko, was in trouble. And I think that if I remember, he mentioned the IDC and the NEF were going for him. I mentioned this detail in my submission. He was in financial trouble. So he had to serve the mandate of Pravin Gordhan and this criminal network. At the same time, he wanted money because his company, and he was in serious financial trouble. So he worked with me with the hope that we'll get money. When he realized that he was not going to get anything, the war became very open. It became very hostile. So on the 15th of March 2015, when we were going to the memorial service of the late minister, Collins Chabane, before we went there, I gave Popo a letter. I said, "We'll read it in the evening." That's my letter of resignation. And Popo, and in that letter I said, "Look, I've been here for a very long time, my health is not good, and blah, blah, all those things." Why did I say that? Because I didn't want to fight with Popo, I didn't want to fight with his board, I didn't want to fight with the Minister of Transport. But Popo leaked a story to the Business Day and said the reason why Lucky is leaving is because he's been found guilty by the public protector. The report of the public protector was not out. It was a provisional report that I responded to and repudiated each and every false things that was being said. So on the 2nd, so Popo Molefe there on the 2nd of March, of April, the board met in Cape Town in my absence. Then they said they resolved to accept my resignation. When the Business Day called me afterwards and said, "Look, can you answer some questions about the public protector report?" No one else had the report except me and the copy I've made for Popo Molefe. So I knew who gave that report. So I called him. "Can I see you, Chairman?" He says, "Well, I'm not around. I'm in Islam. I'm in Nice now. I'm gonna play golf. I'll be there at my house." I said, "Well, I'm in Cape Town. I'm prepared to drive." I drove to Nice now with my daughter and my granddaughter. I drove to Nice. I met Popo there. We had a long discussion. You know what I said to him? I said, "Chairman, I was being polite. But this article from this journalist who called me, I wanted to tell you the truth, why I'm resigning. You tell me, you asked me to stay for another 3 years. But in real terms, you are sharpening your spears. You want to stab me at the back." And I gave him instances where he's done that. That you are speaking right or speaking left, acting right. Because you want to find, I said, "I'm not going to give you the opportunity." That was the letter. So what Popo did to me was someone, when you go to their home and when you leave, they say to you, "No, otsama hantle, dimpyare di bofile." And as you walk towards the gate, they'll allow these dogs to chase you. So I'm giving you that relationship. And I elaborate on it in my statement to the commission. But then I deal with a lot of things that Popo did wrong. He did many other things wrong. Some of them are detailed elsewhere, I won't touch them. But at PRASA, Popo did one unthinkable thing. He got companies to pay money into his what is called the Popo Molefe Development Trust. He says it's for charity. Companies that are contracted to PRASA pay money. And I've seen some of the statements. He doesn't know that I've seen some of the statements. There's no charity, that is money for himself. Money laundering at its best. Some of the companies, he says there's going to be a golf, you guys must contribute. Companies that put money are rewarded. Their scope of work, their load of work is increased. Those that do not participate are investigated by Werksmans and they're cut out. I detailed those. Corruption at its best. We hear that Lucky did this, there's no evidence. I'm saying, I asked Deputy Chief Justice, subpoena the account of the Popo Molefe Development Foundation Trust, the account of his wife, his own personal accounts. You're going to see things there. He didn't do it at PRASA alone. He does it at Transnet. There's a law firm that is employed there, M&S. It has put money in the same accounts. And then some of it you can see he's buying money, he's buying clothes and suntan. For his own personal benefit. Recently, I think they announced that one of the companies that was contracted or awarded work had put up to R1 million into that development trust. Companies that didn't have capacity at PRASA, because they've contributed to that trust. Like I give an example of one company that in a period of 8 years when I was at PRASA, it did work up to 270 million. After I've left and it has put money into the foundation, it has done work in excess of R1 billion without increasing any capacity. It was used as a vehicle for other suppliers that if you want to work at PRASA, you must work through this company. This is evidence. Are the evidence leaders and investigators in the commission interested in those facts? They're not. Popo Molefe and her friend, Dipuo Peters, they were together. When they tried to force me to pay SA fence and gate money, I refused. They were together. But later on, you see a friendship based on, what is it called? There's no, what is it called? The statement, there's no honor amongst thieves. They wanted me to pay at that time. But Dipuo Peters later find out that Popo is not what he claims to be. He was undermining her as the thing. Dipuo said, you are having this investigation, I want you to stop it. Popo attacked her. I think Dipuo realized later, hey, I made a mistake by agreeing with Pravin Gordhan to appoint this guy. He's a criminal. He found that Popo and his board paid themselves additional over and about what the minister had approved in terms of the law. Popo Molefe had paid himself even more money. Popo was using a vehicle from PRASA, the Mercedes-Benz. I've stated very clearly in a letter that this Mercedes-Benz must only be used for official work. He didn't. The Auditor General found that it is in violation of his own tax benefits and that he must pay in 560, other than the salaries that they've paid themselves as a board. He had to pay also 560,000 back to SARS. I don't even think he paid it. So I can go on and on and on. There's the issue about the Black Hawks, the company that I think is owned by Fedi Barnard or whoever, one of the guys in the CCB. Popo had appointed them to provide personal security to him. The appointment of Werksmans, I'm told, is being investigated by the SIU, and they find that Popo is behind their unlawful and irregular expenditure. In Parliament in 2018, I've asked Parliament that I've said the Minister of Transport must investigate the flow of money. He must ask the FIC what happens to the money that is paid to Werks? Werksmans was paid over 350 million. Have you seen a company that is appointed unlawfully, without a tender, without any process? The board says, excuse me, there's irregular expenditure of 550. But its investigation costs almost 70% of what is being investigated. Where's value for money for that? I said, look at where the money goes. Zondo Commission will not, the investigators in the Zondo Commission will not look at these things. I list other corrupt things that Popo Molefe is involved in detail in my statement. He, in my view, he should rank amongst one of the most direct corrupt activities, direct corrupt benefits that fits all provisions of the Prevention and Combat of Corrupt Activities Act of 2004. But Popo Molefe will never be charged. He'll never be asked to account because he's a veteran of the liberation struggle and all of those things. The day Zondo, the Deputy Chief Justice Zondo, summon or subpoenas the finances of Popo Molefe, including of the foundation, you are going to realize the extent of Popo Molefe's corruption. But you know, when I bump into Popo Molefe in public, I bumped into him in Kilani, at the funeral of Mos Chigan in Mamelodi. I bumped him in Ilovo. I bumped into him on numerous occasions. Do I fight with Popo Molefe? No. I treat him with respect. Ntate Molefe. Okay? I will never disrespect him. But he knows, there's a river between me and him. I stand this side, he's on the other side of the river. And in this river, many crocodiles. So I can't go to him, he can't come to me. Me and Popo are on that side. But I treat him as a senior leader, but a corrupt leader for that matter. For me, I can hear Lucky Montana bought a house there and everything. I deal with that in my statement as well. But I can tell you companies that are contracted to PRASA and companies that are contracted to Transnet pay monies to Popo Molefe. And he's using one, so they're not paying the full amount. They're paying 350, another 350, another 350. It becomes $1 million. And the other ones, and then he goes to Santen and buy clothes. I've seen even some of his documents that were leaked about tax returns. So I'm saying that if you want to show, if you say, Kgalema Motlanthe says, let's follow the money. They followed the money. They didn't find any money that comes to me. Because I don't steal. I've never stolen money in my entire life. I fought with our leaders precisely because they wanted to steal. All these guys are greedy. And they fought with me when I refused. But in a case of Popo Molefe, there's direct money from contracted companies to him. Ask him which school or which clinic has he built. What I've seen in his statement is that he bought clothes in Santen. Either bought a car or a house. Is that the charity that he's talking about? And the veterans in our own movement will not talk and speak out against this kind of things. Because the veterans, if you're one of them, you are clean. If you're a young man who threw stones, I don't need permission. I didn't join in the 1980s as a young activist. I joined for the cause, not loyalty to any of these people. And they're not doing me a favor. I knew Popo Molefe because I was a youth activist in Mamelodi. Because of the trial that they had. Because he was a leader of the UDF. But I don't need his favors. I don't need his approval. So I show him respect. Because my grandmother taught me, even if someone, an elder, is wrong, you continue treating them with. So ask him. Whenever you've met Lucky, even when he doesn't see me, I go to him. Dumela Ntate Molefe. But we differ fundamentally. I differ with his method. And I believe that he's one of the most corrupt people. And I've heard that Deputy Chief Justice Zondo praising him, saying all sorts of things. Because the Deputy Chief Justice he's got his own people and other people. If he had the patience to wait for the facts, he would realize that this saint he's talking about is really bad. If you look at Zoto Manase, another lady who was the chair of the audit committee appointed by Zweli Mkhize with the collaboration by Dipuo as a minister, but with the collaboration of Pravin Gordhan and Zweli Mkhize. You look at the corruption there. She even had a criminal record. I detailed that in my own. She has a criminal record where she defrauded SARS of money. SARS. So when someone has got a criminal judgment that is suspect, how do you appoint him? How do you appoint her to your board and you're even appointed as a chair of the audit committee? So I'm simply saying in my submission to the commission, I demonstrate with facts. When I say Popo Molefe is a corrupt man, I'm not saying it based on that. I submit even the supporting info, the documentation. He is corrupt. And I want him to come and say he's going to cross-examine me, and we look at the documents and prove that, and say that he's a corrupt man. I'm saying it with the level of certainty, without any fear. I know he's going to bring senior counsel to try to do that, to try and humiliate me at the commission. I'm not one to be humiliated. I'm going to listen to all of these things. You can throw as much mud at me. I look at you and it won't stick, and I'm not even going to shift because you're saying all. So you can go get a senior counsel, but I would have put it on record for South Africans to see what kind of man is this. Ask yourself, if Ukhozi, which worked under BCPS and Werksmans at PRASA, ask yourself, why was it appointed at Transnet?
Okay, Mr. Montana, we certainly look forward to your appearance at the State Capture Commission. But I want us now to deal with the issue. I mean, we've seen articles recently implicating Dr. Zweli Mkhize, and of course your name appeared there, where it said that there were monies that exchanged and you were paying to the house, to fund their programs. Can you tell us a bit about that?
Look, I think my testimony, well, I didn't do any interviews. I know that Dr. Mkhize is angry with me. He issued a statement yesterday saying that I've been doing I never did interviews. I only submitted my statement to the Zondo Commission. The Zondo Commission allowed some people in the media to read my statement, and they wrote an article. They asked for my comment. I made my comments. So Dr. Mkhize is sitting there thinking that Lucky went for me. Actually, if he looks at the facts carefully, you need to ask, why is Peter Louis Maybeck writing a good article about me or praising me suddenly, out of nowhere? So it tells you that somebody is unhappy about Dr. Mkhize. But it's their fight, it's not my fight. I'm not going to get in between the truth. For me, what I submitted to the commission about the ANC, you see, the ANC is being dishonest. It's my own organization. I belong to the ANC. I'm its loyal member, and I'll never change. I'll die ANC. But we've got greedy people in the ANC. In articles about Sufambo, at the beginning, written by Peter Louis Maybeck, by the way, they said ANC got a kickback. I want to say it very clearly here. ANC didn't get any kickback. When we did the Sufambo contract, Dr. Mkhize was not even Treasurer General of the ANC. To be fair to him, he was not there. So he wouldn't be getting any kickback when he wasn't there. Because that contract was done in early 2013. The tender process started in 2011. It was awarded in 2012. He was only appointed the Treasurer General in December 2012. So he wasn't there. So the accusation that he wanted the kickback is false. The second thing is that they say Maria Gomez wanted a kickback. Maria Gomez also didn't get a kickback because when PRASA did the Sufambo contract, she was not in the picture. Okay? So those are two factual things that I told even Peter Louis Mebek. But the ANC is dishonest because they allowed in the newspaper stories that Maria Gomez got money from Oswald Mashaba, and then they paid the kickback to the ANC. And they say Maria Gomez is a friend of Jacob Zuma. In my statement to the commission, I showed that no, I don't know if Jacob Zuma went to Maria, how they know each other. What I know, as a matter of fact, is that myself, Maria Gomez, her husband Carlos, and Dr. Zwelim Kize, we used to meet at the house of Maria Gomez. And Zwelim Kize came there looking for money for the ANC. And he would provide accounts to Maria, who would then transfer and pay monies to. And I read the statement by Dr. Mkhize. He's silent on this issue. Does he know Maria Gomez? Does he know Carlos, the husband? Has he been to the house of this Angolan couple? And that couple, I know them because they were doing fundraising for the ANC. And Dr. Mkhize went to the house because he was looking for money. Now, in his statement, he says the ANC didn't appoint individuals to collect money on his behalf and generate money. Yet he goes to the house and asks for money. So he goes as a former Treasurer General in his capacity to ask for money from this Angolan couple. You know, I was so angry when I saw Maria Gomez being hounded as a Zuma person. Yet the people who went to her house to collect money, okay, are keeping quiet. They don't say no, but we took the money. Now the ANC issues a statement and say we never received money. I don't have a problem with that. Maybe the ANC didn't receive money, but it begs another question. If the ANC didn't get money, whose accounts were these that were being provided to Maria Gomez? Was the ANC defrauded? So I'm raising these issues in my testimony. And there are many other things, because I used to spend time at the Lutuli House, separate from Maria Gomez, on ANC financial matters with Dr. Mkhize in his office. But when I refused other things, he turned and he saw me as an enemy. So what I'm doing, I'm not attacking. I've got no interest in Dr. Mkhize and what he does with his wife, with his life. My apologies. What I'm saying in the testimony is that he was at the house, not once, not twice, many times. And he was going there because of money. And if he received money from Maria Gomez, and I challenged him, I met him in Santen, Dr. Mkhize, I asked him about this money that he received. You know what he said to me? He says, yeah, the media is talking about 80 million. We didn't get all of that. But we did get some money from Maria Gomez. So it's possible that that money came from Oswald Mashaba. I didn't end there. I flew to London because I was on my way to Germany. I was not working for PRASA. On my way I was invited by railway people in Germany for the Innotrans in 2016. But I traveled via London, not through Frankfurt, but via London. I got off and I went to see Maria Gomez in London. And I asked her, I say, Popo Molefe said you gave money to the ANC. She says, it's true, I gave money to Dr. Mkhize. And she says, there's nothing wrong with that. I love the ANC. We from Angola, who are in the MPLA, we support the ANC. So I'm a businesswoman, I support the ANC. I didn't have a problem with that. But the truth is, based on what Dr. Mkhize said to me and based on what Maria said to me in London, there was money that moved. Now, why do we lack the courage as the ANC to say, no, we took money there? Okay? If we are wrong, we then say we were wrong and address that. But to pretend that you don't know Maria Gomez, I was there, we were eating lunch. She would even cook, prepare Portuguese fish for us. We all ate there. And Zweli will say, we need how many t-shirts, we need to pay for this, we need to pay for this. So we need to be honest with ourselves.
Indeed.
And now I hear this dishonesty where people, they want to be, I hear many of these leaders. I'm telling you, I fought with the Guptas. Even leaders who at that time were telling me, hey, like these guys are powerful, don't take them on. Today they're one singing and telling us about the Guptas being wrong, and they were with them in the same bed. So, as South Africans, we should not be misled to focus on the Guptas as if state capture. Here are our people. The Pravin Gordhans, these are actually the real big tsotis.
You've been put under surveillance, and there have been numerous attempts on your life. Can you please tell us about that?
Well, look, as we are doing this interview, yesterday, I got an alert that I must run away from my home. There's a gang that has been paid to come and eliminate me. So it's been part of my life. I fought with taxi people. They sent some hit squad guys coming from Msinga. They wanted to kill me. It didn't work. You know, if you are destined to go a particular way or route, it will happen. Yes, I'm taking precautions. And I know that if I'm not caught off guard, somebody comes to my house, there's going to be a good fight. The taxi people came to attack my home in Pretoria. They got a surprise. Peter Louis Mayberg came into my house. He got a surprise. So yes, my life has been disrupted. My family has been disrupted. I lost almost everything that I've built in the last 30 years of my working life. My accounts have been shut down by the banks because I'm now a politically exposed person. I can't have access to credit. I don't have banking facilities. And this statement to the Zondo Commission that I've made has angered a lot of powerful people. They want to make sure that before the day that Deputy Chief Justice Zondo invites me, they deal with me. And let me tell you something. I'm going to the Zondo Commission. I think that they can hit me after I come from there. But before that, I'm going there. And I know someone is going to be hurt in all of these things. And those who are chasing me, they must be very careful that they don't end up being the ones who are hurt in this thing. I've been told you must run away, move out of Gauteng. A gang has been, some assassins, a year ago I was told that there were some Israeli guys who arrived here to eliminate me. Now I was told yesterday, that there's 6 guys arrived from Mozambique to eliminate me so that I don't go to the Zondo Commission. So this is a democracy we fought for. We've been subjected to all of those things. But let me assure you, I'm not taking this for granted. I've taken precautions to make sure that my family, my children are protected. But I think they're underestimating my determination to fight. I'm collecting my own information to find out who they are. Because in as much as I'm made of flesh, they're also made of flesh. So I will fight. I'll defend myself, I'll defend my family, I'll defend my children. And if I get good intelligence and I verify that it's the same people, I won't go to the police. I've never gone to the police. There have been so many attempts on my life, I've never gone to the police. I fought back. So, and of course, I don't want to become make myself some kind of a hero and not take precautions and everything. But people are angry. They've accused us of all sorts of terrible things. Now it's my turn to respond. They can't take what they've given. You know, the past 5 years, I've really been accused of everything that you can think of. From buying toilets for 42 million, from traveling with 12 or 12 women on the train, from buying toll trains. I don't know how much I've stolen. Even gangsters from Cape Town met me and say they believe that I'm the leader of they are told by the, law enforcement agencies that I'm the leader of the biggest criminal syndicate that defrauded government of 3.6 billion. They believe that I'm rich. You know, when I saw Maria in London, when I went to London, because you think this thing is localized. No. When I land in London, somebody picks me up in London. So after a day when this guy's been driving me through London, I've had meetings. He says to me, "Sir, tell me, what do you do? Who are you?" So I explained to him, "Look, I'm an ordinary man. You don't know South Africa, but I come from the dusty streets of Mamelodi." And I asked him, "Why do you ask me questions?" He said, "Since you arrived, there have been people who have been following us everywhere we've gone, and they're traveling on bikes. You've asked our company to drive you around in London during your 2-day stay." So I was being followed. Because they believe I've stolen money and stashed it somewhere. When I'm traveling, I'm going to draw in this money. You must look at some of the work that I was doing on properties. They're standing there incomplete because the bank have shut me down. I can't have access to credit. SARS is harassing me. When you answer this, they want this. They go back 10 years and all of those things. But you know what? I've learned to survive and I'm living. You see, you won't even see any problem in my face. Life continues. And those who are doing wrong things will never survive. Darkness will not triumph over light. Wrong will not triumph over right. And I think history is on my side. And I think truth is on my side. So I'm looking forward to my testimony at the Zondo Commission. Again, I'm not going there to take revenge or to that. I'm there to talk about the work we've done for this country. Where we've made mistakes, I'll take responsibility. If Deputy Chief Justice says to me, "But like you, with hindsight, if you look back, do you think we would have dealt with this thing different?" I'll say, "Yes, Deputy Chief Justice. I think I made a mistake there. I should have dealt with this thing different." It doesn't mean it's criminal. We are all human beings. We do make mistakes. But the country has waged, and some of its leaders have launched a big war against some of us. Some of our leaders are fighting some of us. I know there's something inside in my heart, in my mind, that tells me that however powerful they are, they'll not win. That's my story. It's a simple story of a boy born in Mamelodi. My father's side ke ba matlala bakone so ke ngwana matlala ke mokone. I was brought up by my grandmother. You know, I always, when I think of her, she did so much for us. She brought us up, she protected us. I call her a lioness. Nintukulu wa mlalini, kokono mine mlalini. So ntswala ibaka matlala. Nintukulu wa mlalini. So I don't think anyone who doesn't know me, who hasn't given birth to me, it's all like about matlala. Ni bebole ibaka Montana. And so these people, every time they think of killing me, they should first ask, who is he? And something tell me that, I've gone through very difficult things in my life. And I ask myself, did I go through that? And with the Mozambicans who are here, who have been paid to kill me, I hope they enjoy their holiday in the country. And when they're done after 5 days, they go back. But they must be careful that they don't end up not leaving the country alive, the Mozambicans. In the same way, the Israelis, who I know that are linked to this network that I spoke about the entire day. But I've got great hopes for our country. I believe in South Africa. I believe in a better future. I think that there are many things. I look at how we do things. I look at our economy. I look what we do with state-owned enterprises. I listen, I watch the Minister of Public Enterprises talking about SAA. We're building a new airline, with such energy. And we believe these things. South Africa, we're in the southern tip of Africa. We are far from everything else. There's no one who's going to run a profitable airline. That's the strategic reason why we should protect it. Because of where we are. We are far from everything. We are far from the markets. And if the ANC and the government does not recognize the real strategic reasons why we should save SAA, then we are doomed. We are in trouble. We don't understand ourselves. We don't understand where we fit in the geopolitical environment that we are in. But for me, the political leadership is not going to decide my future. I don't need any president or a minister to decide what happens to Lucky Montana. Kere ke tswala ke ba kone Ntukulu wa mlalini, Lisbeth Ramaisel. Those are the people who control my life. Not someone that I met at the Delmas treason trial or a president. That's my story.
This was the exclusive interview with former PRASA Ceo Lucky Montana, sharing his side of the story with us here on the Inside Factor. Thank you so much for joining us tonight on this episode. You can reach us on insidefactor@gmail.com. We're also available on Twitter @InsideFactor. Thank you so much.